Hi, it's Justin Shore from Chronicles of EMS with yet another 60-second life-saving tip. Today, learn CPR with a friend. You never know when they'll need it. Forget game night. Forget Tupperware parties. Have a CPR night. Have a CPR party. Contact your local CPR instructors through the AHA. Get them over. Get your friends together. Learn CPR. It's a skill every citizen should have, not just rescuers. So grab the kids' sports roster. Grab your mother's club. Grab your friends. Get them together. Learn CPR, both adult and infant. It's good that you know it, but what if something happens to you? You want your family to know it as well. And also keep in mind that the American Heart Association now recommends 100 compressions per minute when giving CPR. And this can easily be remembered by humming the tune to the Bee Gees, Staying Alive. Until next time, this is Justin Shore with another 60-second life-saving tip. So you got me laughing now. What a great way to start another episode of Seat at the Table. Gentlemen, welcome to Chronicles of EMS Seat at the Table. Thanks for joining us. My name is Justin Shore, American paramedic.
Mark Linklos, paramedic from the UK.
And I'm Jerry Coleman, the co-chair for TAC Response.
Carl Levon Custon, City San Mateo Fire Department.
Jason Hoshauer, contributing author to American Cop Magazine and also a motor officer.
Wonderful. So what in the world is an American paramedic, a UK paramedic, a couple of firemen, and a cop doing at the table together? We're talking about TAC Response. The conference coming to San Jose in September 14th to the 16th, if I'm correct.
Right, you are correct.
And the way Chronicles got involved with TAC Response was we were invited to a dinner in Oakland that we were under the impression was going to be with one person who worked for a subsidiary of Penwell. And we were just going to talk to them about the possibility of being mentioned in a magazine. The next thing we know, we're in the room with industry experts from the FBI, the CIA, bigwigs in fire, police, sheriffs, everybody talking about all hazard response and cross-training. And everyone went around the room and introduced themselves. And it got around all these people, I'm the chief of this, I'm the sheriff of that, I'm the coordinator for this, coordinator for that. And it got to me and Ted sitting at a table, and it was like, we have a TV show. And that's it. But one thing that went around the room and everybody said is, it's about time for this kind of training. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, Wayne Womack has been working on a business plan for this conference, and I met Wayne about 3 years ago doing some other work with him. And he wants to, as best as he can, as one person, leveraging off the access to other people that he has, put together a conference where we build relationships. And training's been talked about, but it's really about that first step. It's about building relationships that we quite often build in the street. Police and fire, police, fire, EMS, police, fire, EMS, disaster planners, or the paramedic going into the hospital for emergency nursing. That connection that gets made. But quite often as we go up in the organizations, we lose that connection. And what we'd like to do with TAC Response is we have an executive level pre-conference summit which brings all disciplines from planning, preparedness, response, recovery into the same room to talk about our own specialties, challenges we've faced, and what's led to successes. And then the next 2 days are tactical level survival skills, reinforcement, new information, so that people, when they attend TAC Response, can walk away with something else that's going to keep them alive in the street. Mm-hmm. And what we believe is the basic skills that we use on day-to-day responses and working together are going to be the foundation for staying alive in a unique or extraordinary event. So, emerging threat, some would say it's not emerging, it's been here for a while, but we're going to be dealing with terrorism on a greater and greater scale in this country, and we've got to be prepared. Can't do that without the basic building blocks. And TAC Response is about that tactical level survival skill that's going to allow you to recognize and respond appropriately when faced with an unusual circumstance.
Can you give me an example of one of these tactical scenarios that I, as a firefighter paramedic, might go to and learn something from?
Sure, Justin. I think if we look at the continuum of care and we start out with law enforcement arriving on a report of a unknown substance, a medical call where the mechanism is unknown, what's going to happen? You're going to have law enforcement arrive, you're going to have fire arrive, you're going to have maybe a third service EMS transport. You're going to have that patient transported into an emergency department. Emergency nursing is going to take place, emergency physicians. Somewhere in there, somebody has to recognize what's going to happen. And we've seen these cases where, especially some of the things that are happening on the internet with suicide by chemical elixir. You arrive, send the patient in undeconned, and you've taken down the emergency department. You know, that's a single site, single patient incident that has far-reaching consequences. The survival skills would be law enforcement arriving, understanding what they're seeing when the patient's either presenting in a car or a building. Maybe it's a sign of terrorism where the terrorists have been inside dumping chemicals out their front window, and you as a fire officer arrive with your crew, you see a green hedge in front, you see a brown hedge on the backside next to the window. That should alert you, you know, hey folks, maybe we should go check the air pressure in the tires. We're gonna get on the rig and get out of here. That may be one of those signs or symptom of terrorism going on. So those are the kind of things we want to connect with those street survival skills. Being in a situation where you're not comfortable and understanding why. Knowing what resources to call, knowing what other people have in the form of resources.
So is it more about raising the awareness of the whole response team rather than specifically training units to deal with that threat?
Yes, it is, because it's building that relationship. The training piece is probably going to have to take place in individual venues amongst organizations that are going to have to work together. But we're going to take it all the way back to the planning. The emergency preparedness, the offices of emergency services that cities have, state, Cal EMA. We want it to start there, that connection between people when they build plans. When I was with San Jose, we built incident action plans for presidential visits. We did an active shooter scenario, built the plan, built the org chart, and that got us talking. When I was in Redwood City, we worked very well with the county sheriff and with Redwood PD, and our battalion chiefs led the effort, along with the county and PD, to put together an incident action plan. Those are the pre-incident relationships that, had something occurred during that time, would have been depended upon to mitigate the whole situation. And that's because we know what their capabilities are, they know what ours are. That takes us deeper into the hazard zone in a known way, a known approach. So we're really pleased that Penwell saw the benefit of the conference and has agreed to underwrite it, because without Penwell, we wouldn't have been able to lock down the convention center. We wouldn't have the top-notch conference support staff that they provide, and we wouldn't have even had dinner.
Exactly, which was a wonderful dinner.
It was an incredible evening.
So what you're saying is that this conference is really gauged more towards deciding who's going to be in charge ahead of time because everybody's already talking, as opposed to this is an EMS incident with a law enforcement component, as opposed to a law enforcement incident with an EMS component, trying to get that all hedged out ahead of time and just opening up communication between the different disciplines?
Absolutely. The incident will be what it is. The problem comes when you either try and manage it as a committee, and I believe in unified command, but I don't believe in unified command so broad that it becomes a committee that makes that management ineffective. Mm-hmm. So what I like is the concept of collaborative command. That means that active shooter scenario, it's clearly a law enforcement incident until you can get the patients into a zone where they can be treated. And then the recovery starts, the treatment and recovery. But that doesn't mean fire and EMS are out. Fire and EMS are there either as deputy incident commanders or deputy operations, fire rescue branch, medical branch, medical group. However it gets structured, that's all very collaborative because you know how to plug people in. It shouldn't be someone struggling or fighting for control of the incident.
Which is exactly what we have now.
So what happens now? Say if a tanker is that the right word over here as well? A fuel tanker
Keep
or
going.
something?
Yeah.
I keep saying these things and he looks at us. If that flips over on the freeway and it's got gas chemicals in which are released, then is there not a plan already for who deals with that and who has authority, or is it a free-for-all?
I have not seen a free-for-all take place. I've been to some very large incidents in a very large city, and I haven't experienced that. And that's what might be considered kind of a common threat, and it's a big deal when it happens. And I also don't want to imply that organizations aren't working together. Our conference co-chair is Sheriff Warren Ruff of Contra Costa County, who believes in these pre-incident relationships. Law enforcement and fire, fire and EMS have been working together for a long time. The incident itself, usually the initial nature of the incident will point out who's going to be in control. And if you look at a city's emergency operations plan, generally fire is operations in the EOC for most hazards when it doesn't involve law enforcement, crowd control, issues like that, or a terrorist threat.
Does TAC response come more from the fact of just debriefs of previous jobs and how can we do it better than coming up with this idea of the pre-planning and having things in place before that? Not that you haven't been talking in the past, it's just we can do this so much better.
I believe that's what we want to hit. And because the wiring harnesses are out there, NIMS is out there, ICS is out there, there's other concepts for local hazard zone management. Chief Bronacini is doing great work on that local hazard zone. And NIMS and ICS are out there, but we don't train enough together. And that's because we don't have the relationships pre-established to say, hey, because police and fire, EMS are working together in the street all the time, but they're not necessarily connected to the Emergency Operations Center, OES, that needs to be putting this into the plan. And I'll tell you about one circumstance that was interesting to watch, and that's the avian flu, the planning process. Some excellent work was done, and some counties have done some excellent work on it. But I also got to witness people double counting and triple counting the same resources. When a private transport provider, paramedic provider, was putting together a contingency plan to staff their ambulances, if the avian flu had hit their workforce, they were asking the local fire agencies whether or not they could provide that ALS staffing. And at the same time, county EMS was considering how to use ALS firefighters in another role, in a county health role. Well, that's a triple count as far as I'm concerned, and maybe even four, because as a fire chief, I have to provide for the local incidents already going on, not just the avian flus. We have to provide that level of protection. So if our people are going to the same EMS calls that someone else is going to, how can they avoid exposure at the same rate that people on the ambulances are? So that's an indicator that the planning needed to be done in a larger circle. So that's what we're trying to connect.
And it seems you mentioned it, we're working on the ground well. Law enforcement, fire, EMS, if you and I met on a scene, we're both interested in what's going on there, and it seems like whenever the chiefs get together with the mayor, there are always smiles and shaking hands and sharing budgets and whatnot. It seems almost there's kind of a disconnect between the top and the bottom in the middle of kind of this is my incident, I want to run it. And with a lot of you've said it a couple times, active shooter scenarios, unfortunately it's starting to become more and more prevalent that these things are happening. I know a lot of people, firefighters and paramedics I work with, they want to get in there as part of the team that's going in and start treating. And I'm against it. My job is outside where it's safe. How can is this conference something where those middle managers can go and learn that it's okay to talk to each other ahead of time and at the incident?
Yeah, two things. The people on the street right now at the tactical level are those future middle managers. And again, I want to reinforce there are some agencies out there doing an extraordinarily good job of pre-planning and doing exercise and working together. I saw Golden Guardian just 3 weeks ago. Very, very good exercise at the Port of Redwood City. A lot of interaction, multiple disciplines working together. But we want people to know each other as they ascend in the ranks. So it also provides an opportunity, the pre-conference summit, the executive level, provides an opportunity for chiefs, CEOs, executives in charge of other agencies, whether they're emergency preparedness, response, county health, public health, nursing. They're all there to kind of connect the dots and carry that through their careers. At the same time, they're learning how to get in touch with each other now, and that's really what it takes, a phone call. But again, there are people out there doing extraordinarily good work. We just want we want that to be the model.
I like it. Now, Jason, let me ask you this. How can I bring your agency in to train with us? What are some things that maybe when you're out there as an officer on the street that you would want fire and EMS to do better?
Well, talking about the active shooter thing, we've trained for years now. I think when Columbine hit, I was in the academy. And our protocols have completely changed. With the issue with Columbine was you've got a known threat and you pull back, set up a perimeter, wait for SWAT, and try and negotiate, do what you got to do, but you keep hearing those gunshots in the background, and that became a very bad thing as it was. But there was no incident prior to that would lead somebody to think, okay, I need to go in there and stop that threat, because we're trained so hard to do one thing that thinking outside the box can be a little difficult. Whereas now, in the high school and where I work, if there's an active shooter incident and 3 warm bodies with badges and guns show up, be it a beat cop, a school resource officer, maybe the sergeant, maybe a traffic cop, we form up 3-4 bodies, we go in there, we find the threat, we eliminate the threat. In all of my training, we've never done any cross-training with fire. I have no idea what you guys would do in that kind of incident. I mean, I can make assumptions. Like you said, you'd be in a safe place and we'd get bodies to you when it's safe to do so. My job is not to save injured people, which sounds very cold and very calculating, but I have to stop the bad guy from continuing to hurt other people. And that has literally been drilled into us since Columbine. So how do we change that? That's above my pay grade, but I would assume...
For now.
For now. Well, we'll get started on that.
Yeah.
I would imagine it would take middle managers, upper managers doing something very similar to TAC response to get it to the boots on the street.